Today I fucked up. I accidentally became the villain in my neighbor's family drama. I'm not proud of what happened, but I figured I'd share because it's too wild to keep to myself. So, I, 30F, live in a nice quiet neighborhood, and everything was great until my new neighbor moved in. Let's call him Tom. Tom seemed like a perfectly nice guy, maybe a little too quiet, but that's no red flag, right? Everything was normal for the first few weeks. I'd wave hello, and we'd have small talk about the weather or the occasional DIY project. Then, one day, Tom asked if he could borrow my ladder. His fence had fallen down, and he needed to fix it. No big deal, I thought, so I let him borrow it, and that was that. Fast forward a few days, and Tom starts acting a little off. He becomes increasingly distant when I wave, and I can sense a weird tension in the air. I thought it was just me overthinking things until one night, I get a knock on my door. It's Tom, but he's not alone. He's with his wife, and she looks livid. She says, "I need to talk to you about the ladder," in a way that made me feel like I was about to be accused of something. Turns out, Tom had been using that ladder for far more than just fixing his fence. He'd used it to sneak into his ex-wife's house next door and patch things up. Apparently, Tom's ex had moved out after a messy divorce, and Tom had been pretending to borrow my ladder to secretly sneak into her house and work things out with her. The ladder was like his gateway to rekindling their old relationship. His wife was furious because she had no idea about this and had caught him red-handed. She blamed me for lending him the ladder, in the first place, as if I knew he'd use it for that. In that moment, I realized I'd accidentally become the unintentional accomplice in a love triangle I never wanted to be a part of. Tom's wife ended up giving him an ultimatum, and he moved out a week later. But now, every time I see him, he looks at me like I'm the one who ruined his life. Moral of the story: never lend out your ladder, and never trust a guy who can't fix his own fence. Too long did not read. Borrowed my ladder to a neighbor to fix his fence, only to find out he was using it to sneak into his ex-wife's house. I unintentionally became the villain in his messy family drama. How either one of them could place any of the blame on you is beyond me. But I guess it's easier than facing their shitshow of a lifestyle. So, Tom and his new wife moved next door to his ex-wife? Even for I standards, this is some low-effort bullshit right here. Well, he mended a fence. What's the big deal? But, did you get your ladder back? Tell Tom and his wife that you need your ladder back and let it be known you have a line on a wood chipper should either of them ever need one. Today I fucked up because I wear the wrong color dress. I'll never look at my wardrobe the same way again. Went to a wedding last weekend and thought I had everything planned. Found this beautiful blue dress that I thought was perfect, felt amazing in it. But when I showed up, I realized it was the same exact shade of blue as the bridesmaids' dresses. Everyone kept asking me if I was part of the bridal party. I was so embarrassed, trying to explain I wasn't, but it was too late. The bride was the sweetest and didn't mind at all, but I could tell she was a little thrown off. I spent the entire night worrying that I was making things awkward, even though no one said anything directly. At least I wasn't in the same color as the bride. I guess that's a win? Too long did not read. Always check with the bride about dress colors before a wedding, even if it seems like a safe color. Don't ever want to make that mistake again. Nope, sorry. It isn't up to the guest to find out the bridesmaid colors. You did nothing wrong. Why is this embarrassing? Nobody is going to talk about the girl who showed up in the blue dress. The lady in the white dress, however. How many was wearing the same color as the groomsmen? Unless you're super close to the bride, please don't bother the bride about your wardrobe questions. Just don't wear white. Everything else you can chalk up to shit happens. If she said she was fine, then there's no reason to believe otherwise. Don't read anything into it. Lol, my sister's brother-in-law's fiancé, now wife, showed up in the same color and fabric as us, the bridesmaids. She was so embarrassed, but we thought it was hilarious and there was no issue. And if anyone was to blame, it was the groom's own brother for not giving her a heads-up. Tears of joy. Today I fucked up by unintentionally taking truck stop heroin to avoid a trip to the So this is an ongoing foo. I don't know what's going on yet, but my feet and hands went numb about 2 weeks ago. Not even pre-diabetic, by the way, per recent blood work. I've had neuropathy before from having had shingles twice, so I wasn't too concerned, just uncomfortable at first. It has always gone away on its own before, which is probably why I was so stubborn and stupid about this. I guess I just didn't want to pay to get brushed off by yet another PCP with no real answers. The only good one I've had in my city moved away and I just haven't bothered to find a new one. Stupid, I know. The numbness slowly turned into burning and the burning became unbearable. The best way I can describe it is like when your foot falls asleep. It's the part in the middle of it waking up. When it is in that hypersensitive to even the slightest touch, pins and needles face times 10 along with a combo of burning with little jolts of almost electric-like pain to keep it interesting. By the time our story takes place I could barely walk and every step was agony. My hands began to feel like I'd been scrubbing them with fiberglass and were so incredibly weak I could hardly hold my phone or write. It's just relentless, the pain never lets up, not even for sleep. We've established I'm stupid, right? I tried every OTC pain relief I could possibly think of. Aspirin, ibuprofen, Voltaren gel, ketamine, as prescribed by my psychiatrist. Helping with chronic pain was an unexpected but welcome bonus, hot Epsom salt bath, ice packs etc. you name it, I tried it. I was determined not to go to the ER. I have an appointment already set up with my endocrinologist in early January. I convinced myself I could wait it out. Does the frog in a pot of slowly boiling water analogy work here? So of course by the time December 23rd rolls around I was almost going crazy from the pain, sleep deprivation. It was almost as bad as gallstones. Rot in hell you piece of shit. Useless organ. And that so far has been my 10 out of 10 pain. I'd say I was at a 9/10 at that moment. Childbirth wasn't even as bad as this pain. Granted the epidural was definitely pulling its weight during labor. I still couldn't stand the idea of ruining our 6-year-old's Christmas though. Also I live in Murica, so the idea of the build terrifies me. So I decided to go an alternate route. This would be my Hail Mary. Vape shop drugs. So my husband is kind of buddies with the owner of the local vape shop and had told him about what I was going through. The owner suggested I try kratom. I'd tried it before, ages ago, and not only did it not reduce my pain or anxiety, it didn't agree with my stomach contents either. I haven't done kratom or any of its ilk in years though, so what do I know? Maybe it's better quality, more effective these days? I told my husband, who had fully been on team, go to the ER now, for a while, that I'd try his buddy's kratom idea and give it an hour. If it didn't help I would tap out and go to the ER, forever labeled a Grinch. So he hastily heads to the vape shop and like the Flash's dodgy cousin returns no more than 15 minutes later, hucking a bottle of Zaza Red Extra Strength my way. IYKYK. I did not know at all. I skimmed the back to see how many capsules to take but there was no specified dose so I just took 2 capsules like I did years ago. I laid down and set an alarm. I wasn't hopeful about anything either way at this point. I was exhausted. To my great surprise though, after about 20 minutes, the pain just started melting away. It was glorious, euphoric even, one might say. The Zaza kratom has saved the day. My husband who was already my hero even offered to finish up wrapping gifts and get the prime rib prepped for the Christmas Eve dinner. Shortly after, I fell asleep on the couch while doom-scrolling Reddit. I couldn't remember the last time I'd felt so relaxed. I finally got a good night's rest. Pain was what woke me at 5 a.m. the next day, Christmas Eve, but I had my stopgap solution until my endocrinologist's appointment. You don't scare me pain. I took 2 Zaza capsules and within 30 minutes was up and moving around. The pain was maybe 4 5/10, which is only a bit above my baseline. I could do this. The only thing really bugging me was being itchy. I was itchy everywhere. So itchy. This should have been my first real clue that something wasn't right, but I was in full-on Christmas prep mode so I just took some Benadryl and chalked it up to switching to a new hay for our guinea pigs. I subsequently blamed the Benadryl as the culprit behind my nodding off every time I sat down to relax, read, etc. The pain was under control. I had slain that evil with the help of my own non-FDA approved supplement version of Excalibur. Maybe kratom only works if you're in acute pain, I pondered, or maybe it's just gotten stronger as time has gone on. In the back of my mind though there was a familiarity to the itchiness, sleepiness, euphoria tied to post-op pain meds, post-wisdom tooth removal recovery etc. It reminded me of Vicodin. Christmas was a cozy, lovely day with my little family and I. It's true what they say, holidays are totally different when you add a kid into the mix. Especially once they are old enough to get really excited about it. It almost makes you believe in the magic too. It was about as perfect as it could be and we put our kid to bed full of roast beast and able to beat us at Yahtzee. Sounds like a pretty great holiday despite the lead up, right? How did the vape shop pills ruin Christmas? I thought they helped. You may be asking, furthermore, why did you waste my time reading this you fucking asshole? Well simmer down, we're getting there and writing this is keeping me occupied while I wait. So at some point after all the Christmas excitement dies down, or while once again doom-scrolling Reddit comfortably, it'll be so much easier to touch grass without the pain. It occurred to me, why have I never heard of this magical Zaza kratom before? I'm in a bunch of chronic pain groups and I see suggestions for different strains of kratom pop up with decent regularity, but never this Zaza one. Maybe since it had been years since I'd last tried it I'd just forgotten about this strain? Still, now that I was no longer contemplating throwing myself off a bridge, my curiosity had been piqued. I needed to know more about this unicorn of an OTC supplement. Naturally, I googled Zaza Red Extra Strength Kratom and my heart dropped as I saw strike-throughs on the word kratom, and one of the first links was fucking gas station heroin from addiction treatment center no less. Turns out that's the nickname for tianeptine. I immediately checked my pill bottle and there it was in tiny lettering, tianeptine. I consider myself somewhat hip for a 36-year-old, but I'd never even heard of tianeptine or TIA before. I had been taking a double dose of what is basically shady loophole heroin for days. I had Mandela-effected myself into thinking the word kratom was on the bottle somewhere, but nope, just Zaza Red Extra Strength. I panicked. The more I read the worse it got. Tales of instant addiction, withdrawals worse than real heroin, meth or benzos, they can take weeks to get through, etc. etc. I'm sure, well, I hope, some of that information is just fear-mongering, but thinking back on the last few days, anecdotally, a lot of what I read sounded extremely close to my experience with it. I could see easily getting addicted to it, just based on efficacy and availability alone. My poor husband, just trying his best to help me, had grabbed the Zaza Red instead of the kratom strain Bali Red, and we're both so behind on our desperate times drug knowledge. It could have happened to anyone. Now he's convinced himself I'm going to be hooked and that he's ruined my life, or that he'll have to watch me go through awful withdrawals. I'm trying to convince him he's the best thing that ever happened in my life. 18 years together this March. Mystery of the unicorn drug solved. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Stay the fuck away from tianeptine. I'd like to be around for next Christmas, so I called poison control since I had taken so much without realizing how harmful this drug can be. They said do not pass go, do not collect $200, go straight to the I'll probably be in the waiting room until next Christmas because everybody who didn't feel well on Christmas but didn't want to miss out, me, floods the the day after. It took me forever to even type this out because invisible fiberglass mittens are back in style. Hopefully they can figure out the reason these shenanigans started to begin with, the pain. If anyone is interested, I can post an update if I get a diagnosis. If there is anything to be learned from my tale, it is to not be like me, a massive, calamitous idiot who didn't even bother to read the fine print and should have gone to the when the pain started. Remember that frog analogy? I'm the frog. As the ones who are actually hip say, I'm cooked. Too long did not read. I fucked up by putting off going to the despite escalating pain because I thought I could just deal with it until my endocrinologist's appointment in early January. I could not. The pain became unbearable on December 23rd, and in a desperate bid to at least spend the holidays at home with my husband and daughter and avoid a terrifying hospital bill, I agreed to try kratom again after at least 5+ years. It didn't help with my chronic pain at all, just upset stomach etc., so I never tried it again, as a desperate Hail Mary. My husband grabbed Zaza Red instead of Bali Red. I felt amazing, so relaxed, almost pain-free. Neither of us noticed till almost 3 days later that it was not kratom at all but rather tianeptine or TIA, or truck stop heroin, and I'd been taking a double dose of it. It was in tiny fine print under the mg amounts. Called poison control, and I'm at the now, before I get yelled at in the comments to go to the Lol. All of this could have been avoided if I'd been an ADM mult and gone to the in the first place. Dude, that's a full-blown polyneuropathy. It's not just shingles. Shingles is in a single dermatome, not both hands and both feet. And one day it might come back and not just go away on its own. You need to see a neurologist, like yesterday, and get to the bottom of it. That was the longest Reddit post I've ever read and actually found interesting. Can't wait to hear updates. Top shelf Zaza fucked up my circadian rhythm. Well, def keep us posted op. This reminded me why I joined Reddit in the first place, because of user U, Spontaneous H, and their heroin stories. Jesus. Quite the story. Hope they get you on something to help with the pain, and figure out what's causing it. Thank you for posting this. You'll be okay. I'd be more worried about the physical pain predating your desperation for relief. That bit of synthetic heroin won't do anything long term and might actually have a role in your future recovery. You're just in for a bit of uncomfort. Be brave, and pay attention to your doctors and loved ones.